Imagine that we were on a city break and we leave our hotel and we go out for a little walk around. When we come to go back to the hotel, I will be able to get us back to the hotel every single time, even without a map. I have an amazing sense of direction. I can't tell you my left, my right, couldn't tell you which way was north, east, south or west, but I can get us back to our hotel. My husband has a terrible sense of direction. We've been driving to my parents' house for the last 22 years and he still cannot find his way. And when we go on that journey and he's driving, it's just incredibly stressful for everybody. Being lost is not a nice feeling. It really makes you feel quite panicky and you can only see what's immediately in front of you. It's really hard to see what's further down the line and it's not a nice feeling. Lots of people feel like that about speaking. They can only see what's immediately around them. They can only sense what is going on within them right that second. And they can't see what are the next steps they might need to take to get them out of where they're feeling. Which is why we have developed the Speaker Impact Guide. So you don't need to be lost any longer when it comes to knowing where you are as a speaker and where you want to go. So now with the Speaker Impact Guide, you can identify exactly where you are, exactly what is going on for you as a speaker and how that's impacting yourself and your audience. It also shows you where you might want to be in the future, where you'd like to be, and what it will feel like to be there and what's going on when you get to that place. The guide also helps you with information in terms of what you're doing with your body, your breath, your voice, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and help you get to that next level. It shows you where you are, what you need to do to get to that next level. It's really in depth and I think it's incredibly helpful. So whether you are a seasoned pro and you're really aiming to get to that movement creator stage where you are influencing huge numbers of people at large events, or whether you're at the other end of that scale and you're a silent speaker, so you have these brilliant ideas and these brilliant thoughts and yet you don't quite get to share them within your team, this guide is incredibly helpful regardless of which end of the scale you are on. I want to dive into one point on the scale so I can give you an illustration of what this scale can actually do for you. And I want to talk about level 2. And this is what we call the prepared but unheard speaker. In fact, there's a kind of little brackets before it. It's like over prepared and underheard speaker. So if I describe this person to you, what it would feel like, maybe you can identify with some of what's going on here, because most of our clients, whether they are relatively junior or incredibly senior, most of the clients that we work with actually enter all of our programs, all of our coaching somewhere around here. So see if this resonates with you. So you can and you do speak up. You can present. You just don't love it, right? So if it's within your wheelhouse, so it's your area of expertise, it's something you know really well, you've been doing for a really long time, and if the people that you are speaking to are relatively small in number and people that are known to you, you're probably going to be fine. You're probably going to be okay. You don't love it. It's not something you really look forward to, but you can do it. If it's outside of your wheelhouse, so this is areas of slightly outside your area of expertise, you can do it and you will do it, but you really, really don't love this. And there's a cost. There's an emotional and there's a physical cost to this for you. So this means you're probably going to lose sleep over it. You're going to not be able to relax into this conversation. It means you're going to spend a long time perfecting either the notes, or you're going to spend a long time perfecting the deck that goes alongside this, so that you feel very secure with this deck. It's like a crutch. It's a safety blanket. It is what is going to get you through this. And you tend to think of that as the presentation and not you. You may find that on the drive into the office or wherever you're going to have this conversation, you're like, oh, I need to tell them about this. And you're adding things into that presentation on the morning of, not taking things away. Now, if that's the case, if you're adding things in right at the last minute, it tells me that your North Star the purpose of your conversation, the purpose of this presentation is not clear to you. Because when our purpose is super clear, what should be happening is like, oh, but that's not getting us to our North Star, out it goes. And so actually the process of getting to the point you're presenting is a process of paring down, not of adding in. So if you're adding in, it probably does mean you're an overprepared but unheard speaker. What happens in the moment? So you're actually in the room, you're in the presentation. You may have moments of just not being able to recall what you just said. Even though you've got the slide deck there, even though you've practiced this 100 times, you've just said something and actually you have no idea what just came out of your mouth. You don't know where to go to next. You need that slide deck to direct you to the next part of the conversation. You might be feeling a bit hot or a bit flushed, having those slightly pink cheeks. Your hands suddenly have got a life of their own and they're doing these random things that you can't seem to control, or they're not doing anything at all and they're just by your sides. And what is this voice? This is not your voice. This is not what you sound like. And suddenly you've got a voice that is completely different to that real expert, embodied, sensible, driven, ambitious voice that normally comes out of your body. But this, what is this thing? What happens afterwards? Well, on the whole, you're going to leave that room, you're going to leave that session feeling really disappointed with yourself. Again, you're frustrated that this feels so hard and you put in so much work and yet it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. And people might come up and go, oh, that was really good. And you will just let that slide right off. It doesn't go in because you're thinking, no, it wasn't. It was terrible. I didn't do this. I didn't say that. I forgot to tell them about the other. And your inner critic is having a party. It thinks its birthday, that Christmas, Hanukkah has all arrived on one day. And it is telling you that you're a fake, that you are no way up to this title or this level of job, that by this point in your career, you should be better at this. Everybody else in this room is so much better than this, than you. And it is having an absolute ball and making you feel even worse. Now, if I was to walk into your office and say, oh, could you just go pop into such and such office and just talk to them about X, Y, and Z? Or if I call upon you in a meeting and say, can you give us an update on such and such? Your physical and mental reaction to that is like, oh my God, you're holding your breath, your body's gone stiff, your mind is utterly blank, even though this thing you've been asked to update on is the thing that you're working on all the time. For you, off the cuff speaking is terrifying. It is just something you don't do. And if you're ever forced into a situation where you do it, you don't really know what's coming out of your mouth. And when you finish speaking, you're like, oh my goodness, that was just nonsense. What was I thinking? And so off the cuff speaking feels really stressful and you are always extremely disappointed with your performance when you have done it. So what happens then? Well, next time when you need to present and it's slightly outside your wheelhouse, or the audience is just that bit bigger, or this is a slightly higher stakes conversation, or it's a difficult conversation with a difficult message, with maybe a little bit of a difficult audience, what do? You work harder. You spend longer creating that presentation. You spend hours, weeks, months perfecting that deck. You practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it. And what happens? The same thing. You get in there, your breathing gets high, you can't remember what you just said, your hands start doing that funny thing, your mouth is dry, your voice sounds so weird. And what's worse is that people aren't really listening. They're not really taking action on what you're saying. And so you are massively over prepared. And yet the message doesn't land. You are still unheard. And it is so unbelievably frustrating. If this sounds like you, then you sound like many of our clients. Many of our clients that come into our programs come in at this point. There is other, better, more rewarding places to be as a speaker, as a leader, as a presenter. I promise you. If you are interested in understanding a little bit more about where you are on that speaker impact guide, then I would really recommend you download it. We've put the link down below. Download it. It is filled with huge amounts of information about where you are so you can self-identify and work out where you'd rather be, and it will help you with the journey to get there. So download our speaker impact guide, and if you want to have a conversation about where you are on that scale and where you'd rather be, then definitely book in for a call with myself to talk about how we can help you along that journey. Take care, and we'll see you really soon. Bye for now.